Hey everybody, welcome back to the Steelfist podcast. I sincerely apologize for the delay on getting this recap out. I've had issues with the computer, I've had issues with my life. I promise this much of a delay will not happen again, so I will get this all resolved and posted as fast as I can. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and recap the event from March 16th. Again, super sorry for the long delay on this one. But jumping right into it, we are starting with Manuel Marrero coming in against Arsha Hashimi. A pretty solid technical match between both of these guys. Manuel was just a little bit faster and a little more precise. He is really good. I always go into the pit and get some pretty good rounds in with him. Super technical, solid striker. Really good at using his range and putting together combinations. Arsha Hashimi also did super good in there. Was able to keep the fight competitive for most of it, but was just a half step behind pretty much the entire time. And Manuel was able to get the decision. Moving on, we've got Elijah Lee coming in against Kenneth Ali. A little bit of an opponent switch up for Kenneth Ali. His opponent got injured, so he switched over to kickboxing. He came out super aggressive, was throwing lots of heat, and Elijah did good about absorbing what damage he can, blocking a lot of it, and putting together his own solid game plan. Coming into the second round, Kenneth Ali kind of just blew all of his energy out in that first round and wasn't able to stay in. Elijah Lee, super good for being his first fight ever, super good for not really having very much formal training, and coming in against somebody with way more experience than him in Kenneth Ali. Kenneth has 3 fights. Elijah Lee, on short notice, was able to come in and get the win. Excited to see how that guy's gonna go back. Kenneth Ali had said to me that he believes cardio is a bit of an issue in this, so he's just going to go back and rework some cardio things, and I'm sure we will see him back and making the improvements that he needs. Moving on, we've got Ebony Knight coming in against Morgan Marsh. This was a fun one to watch. Both of these athletes going in and having a good time. Every single time one of them would begin an engagement, the other one would answer back with combinations throughout the whole entire fight. It was a super close and competitive one. Morgan looks like she's improved a lot since working over at Fight City, and Ebony has been working with Memento Mori as well as Cache Valley MMA and has just always been a super exciting striker. Really the difference here was just the accuracy and the damage of Ebony. She was just a little bit more accurate with her timing and her strikes, but Morgan has constantly been improving. For Morgan, I understand the disappointment of losing, all your fights. That's how I started out my career, and I just kind of stuck with it longer, and now she's with a fantastic team and making high improvements and looking really good, and always been a really big fan of Ebony and just her aggression and her skill level. So this was a great one. Congratulations, Ebony, on getting your win. Moving on, we've got Marconis Alves up against Rich Mebius. Rich was coming in to show these younger guys what it means to have heart in a fight. He stayed in the fight the whole entire time and was fighting back late in the third when he was pretty tired. Marconis, quite a bit younger, was landing a little bit more powerful shots and a little bit more accurate shots. Rich did really good about hanging in there with him. He had a big support system. I feel a bit bad for Marconis with everybody booing him. I mean, it's kind of a hard position to be in. I don't think he really handled himself in a bad way. I think he handled himself pretty well for both of these guys. So congratulations, Marconis, on your performance, and Rich Mebius. You gained a ton of fans that night with your heart and your performance, and coming in there at your age and competing up against these younger guys is awesome to see. Moving on, we've got Logan Shell up against Sa Ki. Logan from the get-go was coming in and throwing to kill, trying to catch a body in there. Sa did really good about matching his intensity and matching his pace. This was a pretty close matchup between both of these guys for the most part. In the third round, though, Sa's cardio really fell down, and Logan kept up the pressure, kept on throwing super powerful strikes, super good combinations, was able to get Sa up against the fence and just dictate the match in that third round. The other 2 rounds were definitely a lot more toward Logan, but Sa was able to stay competitive in them. But that third round was all Logan, so he was able to get the victory. Logan and really anybody at Empower is a tough matchup for most of all these guys in Utah. Sa did really good, and I can't wait to see how he's going to look when he returns. Jacob Baird up against Joey Montez. I talked about a bit in the build-up, talking about how good Jacob Baird is. He's a really hard fight for anybody, especially someone coming in and making their debut. The experience and skill level really just showed here. He was constantly able to manipulate Joey's stance and knock him off balance, sweep him, catch his kicks, throw his own kicks. I've talked before about how good Jacob is about using his wrestling into his Muay Thai, but he's showing here that he's getting to the skill level. He doesn't really have to use his wrestling. He's just using his pure Muay Thai skill that he's developed working with those guys at Empower. and is just levels above most of the guys that he's competing up against. As for Joey, really showed his heart and his toughness, kept on getting up, kept on trying to fight, kept on trying new things, and his next matchup's going to be a lot better for him. Excited to see how that one's going to go down. And Joey was right back in the gym and improving, so a good job to both of these athletes. Moving on, we've got Gio Carrillo coming in against Chris Chiachaloon. This was probably fight of the night in my book. Both of these guys are solid boxers, lots of fun exchanges between them. A lot of people had disagreements about the decision. I agree with it personally. The first 2 rounds were pretty close, so they could be scored either way. I personally scored them for Chris, and then the 3rd round was definitely a 10-8 for Gio. 3rd round, the fatigue kind of hit both of them, but Gio was able to persevere through it a little bit better, ended up getting the fight down to the ground, and was able to dominate that 3rd round for a 10-8, which led to a draw. This was already a super fun fight, so I hope to see them both go back and improve, and I would like to see this one ran back. Moving on, we've got Tristan Downs up against Anthony Mondragon. I'm friends with both of these guys. I'm really happy to see Tristan be able to go in there and get his first win. This fight, from my experience and being able to train with both of these guys, I really was not sure on who was going to get the win here. They both excelled where I believed they would. Anthony Mondragon, he has a super good striking background. Training with those guys at the pit, we're expecting him to be really well-rounded. But Tristan Downs over with Colossal Fight Company, those guys are just fantastic grapplers. And that showed through here. Tristan was able to get Anthony down to the ground every single time and just maintain control throughout the entire fight. So congratulations, Tristan, on getting your win. And Anthony is going to go back and make the adjustments. He's got the team. The pit is a fantastic place to be, and can't wait to see the future for both of these guys. I believe they're both going to be problems at 145 pounds. Moving on, we've got Brian Miller coming in against Joe Davis. Brian Miller has always been really good. He hasn't really ever been able to show it just because of some injuries and stuff that he's had in his fights. We've only trained a handful of times, but from all the places that I've gone and all the people that I train with, Brian Miller has always been really good. I also knew it was a matter of time until age caught up with him. I mean, he knew that too. He retired after this fight, so I'm glad that he was able to do it in a healthy way and really on his own terms. He was able to get the match to the ground, got top mount, and set up a pretty awesome triangle. Got the finish. To any of my students who are watching this, if you ever go from mount to triangle, you're gonna be banned from the gym. But you're not Brian Miller, he's just built different. Joe Davis, this was his first cage experience. 50% of the time doesn't quite go your way. So he's got a solid team down there at Agema. I'm sure we will be able to see him back and make the improvements that he needs. All right, Darian Orvin versus David Than. David Than is really good. Those shots that he was catching me with, some pretty solid right overhands, I believe they hurt most of the guys in Utah MMA. They were super solid punches. My skull is just abnormally thick, so I'm able to take a lot more damage than I probably should. I'm working on my striking though. But I'm glad I was able to show my skill up against somebody who I believe to be one of the best pure wrestlers in Utah MMA. He's had very dominant performances in every single one of his fights. Even the fight that he lost was super dominant up until those last 30 seconds. So he is really good. I'm excited to see him continue. I believe he has a really strong claim at being the next 155 champion. And I'm excited to be able to train with him. We're gonna work just some simple things that I was able to do in there just to shut down his wrestling a little bit. My experience, one of the things I'm most grateful for with the pit was being able to work on my counter wrestling so well to get it to such a level that most of my amateur career has been fighting wrestlers. So, fighting just another wrestler, no matter the skill level, it's the same thing I've dealt with 1,000 times. And that's really just my game, is fighting counter wrestlers and being able to turn the tides on them. Next up, we've got Patrick McKinney up against Mitch Olson. Mitch Olson has been nothing but dominant throughout his whole career. He's the second best double champ in Utah, outside of myself. Just kidding now. But I always know he was a super good wrestler. He's one of the best wrestlers. He was able to out-wrestle a Division I college wrestler. His grappling is phenomenal. And really had some questions about him coming into the fight against Trace Tuckett, who was a striker who we really haven't seen struggle all that much. But Mitch was able to implement with a pretty simple to execute game plan, but a pretty difficult game plan to really conceptualize and see the holes, to really exploit the holes that are in Trace Tuckett's game. He was able to outstrike him. He was able to out-wrestle him. And from there, I don't think there's many guys at 185 pounds in Utah that are able to compete with Mitch Olson. And then he goes up to 205 pounds. He puts on the weight and then cuts down up against Patrick McKinney. And it was just dominance for him from beginning to end. Won every single exchange, and he looked phenomenal. Always been a big fan of Patrick McKinney and his journey, his weight loss journey coming down from heavyweight. He's looking better and better each time we see him out, but he had a tough fight up against Mitch Olson. I know that he's got the team behind him to be able to go back and adjust the things that he needs to, so can't wait to see how he's going to be when he gets back. Moving on, we've got Beck Shields up against Hal Mitchell. Beck, glad to have him back. He unfortunately suffered an injury in his first fight, which put him out for quite a while, but now he's back, and he has super good submission skill. Hal Mitchell coming out of the gates pretty aggressive, throwing punches off the glove touch, but the aggression ended up him walking into a guillotine set up from Beck Shields. Beck picked him up with the guillotine, sat him down and stepped over, and it was it from there, super tight. So congratulations, Beck Shields, on getting your first professional win. Moving on, we've got Kawhi Thompson up against Vincent Wright. Another super exciting fight here. Vince did really well in the first round, really just establishing his game. Lots of aggression, lots of damage. Kawhi had to show a bit of his toughness in there. Unfortunately, there was a point deduction there. I believe it was elbows to the top of the head or to the back of the head, which is illegal. Can't do that. So there was a point deduction. Second round, Kawhi kind of closed the gap and made it a lot closer. And then in the third round, Kawhi just completely took over and was able to get the submission finish. So congratulations, Kawhi, on getting your first professional victory. Last time, I apologize for this being so late. And up next is going to be the preview for the April 5th card.